This goes beyond the stadium. It's 17 countries, it's 17 cultures, one dominant economy. So it's time to rip the Band-Aid off Nye and end this failed marriage, or are these countries going to stay together and just keep struggling as they live under one roof? Well, let's bring in Dan Greenhouse, Chief Global Strategist at BTIG, and Ashraf Laidi, Chief Global Strategist at City Index. To both of you, great to have you on the show. Ashraf, I'll get to you first of all. I mean, soccer in Europe has a habit of arousing deep passions and old rivalries, a little bit like politics and current economics. Can you draw the parallels here?
People did not stop making jokes and references to the Eurozone. The Greek player is going to get a red card by the German referee and so on and so forth. Listen, I am a big fan of the sport. Let's look at it this way. There is something interesting. When was the last time you heard that the German most watched player has a last name which is Gomez, of Spanish origin? One of the greatest players are of origins from Turkey, from Tunisia, from Poland. This is Germany we're talking about. So I am looking at it this way. The fact that this German team has a more international look about it, more of an international feel about it, could probably lead to more of a tolerance by Angela Merkel to listen to its Spanish, Italian, Greek neighbors, and may have to play ball and extend the austerity obligations that the Greeks have to make. Instead of them having to save 12 billion euros in 2 years, maybe they have to do it probably in 2.5 years or 3 years. I hope you see where I'm going with this.
I understand where you're going exactly. Dan, do you agree that Germany is not just going to say take it or leave it and grab the ball and go home?
Well, I'll say this. Ashraf is smart as a whip. I see no relation. I'm an American, so by definition, I don't like soccer. But more generally, you really can't come to a conclusion then other than Germany has to relent to some degree. Now, I don't say that flippantly. Clearly, the Euro project has been built on decades of German pushback on what is ultimately a French push for more growth, more integration. But eventually we have gotten to where we are. That is to say, the Germans have relented over time. And going forward over the next 6 to 8 quarters, they're likely to continue to varying degrees relenting.
And Dan, you know, we're using obviously the soccer match as a broader metaphor, right? And I know it's not a game. There's a lot of money and there's a lot of livelihoods on the line here. But in the fight between Greece and austerity and Germany, what they want, who do you think will win? Will anybody win?
Well, everybody's losing to some degree. You know, generally speaking, to the extent that we're able to hold the euro area together, and I am someone who believes that ultimately the euro area will hold together, whether it includes Greece and or Portugal or not, that for me is quote unquote the definition of winning. It's sure as heck not going to feel like winning to a lot of people, and nothing right now going on in Greece feels at all like winning. But at the end of the day, holding the euro area together is the goal, and to the extent that you can do that, you've succeeded.
Yeah, Ashraf, what would be the best possible fiscal outcome of this global game?
It's before I start the serious question, let me answer a more serious question. It is no coincidence that the unexpected victory of the Euro Cup by Greece was in 2004. Guess who was their coach? He was German. The last time Greece won an unbelievable victory was under a German coach. Does that mean that the only way for Greece to stay is by some good sidings by Germany? I think Dan is right. The Eurozone needs to win. It needs to survive. They worked on this thing for half a century. How do they do it? They will have to bend the rules. They will have to extend the targets. If it takes 1 year or 2 years for them to get down the debt to GDP to 3% or to 5%, it may have to take 2 years. Can Germany afford to leave this thing and go by its own? No way. If Germany dares to even think about going by its own, it will no longer have the benefits of cheap currencies, low rates, and so on and so forth. So we would not like to say there's no way, but there is no way that Germans are going to take this on their own and are going to leave. And we don't even buy the scenario of a smaller Eurozone.
What if, I know you don't buy that particular scenario, Ashraf, but Dan, what if the Eurozone doesn't win? What if there is a breakup? I mean, it's not impossible. It may be unlikely. It may be undesired, but it's not impossible, is it? And what would be the implications?
Well, no, nothing's impossible. But I think, at the end of the day, the euro area, we hear this quite frequently, is a rich country as a whole. Their debt to GDP is not particularly unattractive. I know we obviously always focus on Germany, but there's more going on there than just Germany. And while I agree with you, it's certainly not impossible. As Ashraf noted, people tend to think, or incorrectly tend to think of the euro as, well, it began in 1999. But as Ashraf noted, this has been pretty much since the end of World War I, certainly since the end of World War II, that they've been working on this project, and I don't think they let it fail just because. And at the end of the day, it's in the Germans' interest, assuming they're driving the bus here, it's in their interest to hold this together, whereby there's almost no immediate benefit to Germany if this thing falls apart.
I love that point of view, Dan, because if you haven't been there and you're sitting at home watching financial TV for 3 years, you picture Europe as like a financial wasteland, right, where everybody's struggling, nobody has any money. Having been all around the region, including to Greece, I love what you said. It's got a lot of money there. We just don't talk about that side of the story. Are the global financial markets underestimating Europe?
I think they're underestimating, and I'd love to get Ashraf's take on this, but I think they're underestimating the will of the so-called elite, or at least the leaders in, let's say, Germany and France for sure. Although, to your point, there are several AAA-rated countries in the region. I think Americans certainly are underrating the will of politicians to hold this together.
Ashraf, agree? Underestimating the will?
Yes. But one thing is to take this thing called the second biggest Eurozone in the world. The Eurozone is tired. The U.S. is not doing that great either. And the BRICS, B-R-I-C, as I would like to say, the pigs cannot continue to stand on the bricks. I'll give you time to laugh on that joke. But basically, the BRICS are basically taking rates all the way down. The U.S. is hurting, as we see in the Philly Fed, in the Chicago PMI, in all of these. So we have to wait. It's a question of time before the ISM in the U.S. falls below 50. The Eurozone, the reason that its stress is being put under light is because it's really the first region in the world that is having to take the austerity that the U.S. has yet to do.
Ashraf, Dan, always fantastic to have you.